Hello and a very warm welcome to you all for this very special edition of The Blether with me, William.
And with me, Gary. Yes, this is a special episode as we will be looking at a very exciting project underway in Canada, but it's also our first birthday.
Our first birthday. Can you believe it? It's a year since The Blether hit your screens, ladies and gentlemen. And remarkably, Gary and I are still in speaking terms. It's quite remarkable, really.
Just. But we must say a huge thank you to all of our wonderful and interesting guests during the past year. And we hope that you've enjoyed the informal get-together that we have every month.
Yeah, we must thank last month's guest, of course, Malcolm from the Scottish Tartans Authority, for a very informative chat. And we're glad we were able to answer the question that was sent in to us about the origins of the Black Watch tartan, which was very interesting. Yeah,
Absolutely. But it's time to introduce our guests. Two of them, two for the price of one this month. Two members of the Teachers Association of Canada who are involved in the John Drury project.
And Gary, you and I know these two ladies, and we're up against it today.
Completely.
We fully admit we're on a hiding to nothing here with this pair. So it's a great welcome to Fiona Miller and to Sharon Barker. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Great. And you are in Canada, of course, so thanks for joining us. And it just shows how our big happy family links together. And you're involved in this lovely project for John Drury. But before we get there, it's through the Teachers Association of Canada, of course. So what is the Teachers Association of Canada?
Well, I'll start off with that. It's actually, the official name is the Scottish Country Dance Teachers Association Canada, abbreviated to TAC. So many of you will have heard of TAC, Teachers Association, and the Canadas in parenthesis. It was an association that was formed actually on the recommendation of a lady by the name of Jean Milligan, that some of you may have heard of, to give teachers in North America a chance to have somebody to talk to and share information and ask questions about and get support from each other. And so the association was formed, and we did, you may remember there was a special anniversary event during the centennial for the RSCDS. It was also an anniversary for TAC, that we were celebrating our 65th anniversary at that time. And we are now a worldwide organization. Any teacher who has their Unit 1 or Unit 2 or their CTI competency can join as a member, and we do mentorship. We have access to TAC Sound and TAC Books, which are two stores selling, as it sounds, music and books to everybody and anybody throughout the world. So,
And you also organise quite a big event during the summer.
yes, we do. We organise the TAC version of Summer School at St Andrews. Ours rotates through centres in North America. It's not a stationary event or a static event, and is open to everyone and anyone. Dancers from all over the world come and attend. And we've been lucky enough to have both of you, Gary and William, as guest instructors on our staff in various years to come and help celebrate the joy of dancing.
And a fine organisation it is. I mean, it's so well organised. And although it's the Teachers Association Canada, as you say, it's worldwide, but it takes in America and as well and all over the place. So yeah, before we get on to the John Drury project, then Fiona, you clearly are not from Canada, or did you learn your dancing in the old country somewhere? Did you?
Yes, I actually grew up in Glasgow, Scotland. Danced for many years south side of Glasgow in various clubs there. Took my training while I was at Dunfermline College for physical education, which at one point was in Edinburgh. And I'm one of the few people still alive and dancing who was examined by Miss Milligan herself. So yes, I grew up in Scotland and then emigrated to Canada.
Gary, the south side of Glasgow is the posh end.
Oh,
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
posh bit, right? Okay.
Yeah, there are posh bits of Glasgow. You steady.
I know. I'm going to stop there.
Sharon, what about you? Where did you start your dancing then?
Well, I started dancing in Aberdeen, actually. Yeah, I moved to Canada when I was very young. Obviously, I have no accent left. Yeah, I started Highland dancing in Aberdeen. And when we moved to Canada, my mom actually started the class for kids and been dancing for many years.
The good thing is, though, that Sharon, that you are probably one of the few Canadians that can understand me when I start
Yes.
speaking proper Northeast Doric.
Yeah. No, Sharon, you're one of the few Scots that can understand what he's saying as well, I can tell you. It's unbelievable the number of times I've had to act as a translator for him. But anyway, there we go.
We're usually asked for subtitles for the Blether, which is probably a good idea. But Sharon, you're very involved with TAC as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so both Fiona and I are past chairs of TAC, and have been very involved in organizing the summer schools for well over a decade. And so, yeah, we're constantly taking part in the different events that TAC runs, not just the summer schools, but all the virtual events that they run as well.
Superb. Now, John Drury, that's really what we're here to talk about, because we need to sort something out first of all, because Gary and I nearly fell out at the last month with the Blether about where John came from, and we were both wrong, because he actually was born in Melton Mowbray in Leicestershire, where the pies come from, the famous pies. But he did live in Carlisle, did live in Cumbria for a long time, and that's where he took up Scottish country dancing through the Ramblers group, joined the RSCDS at the Carlisle branch, and crucially knew Hugh Foss, who was in Galloway, and it was Hugh Foss who encouraged John to devise dances early on. And then he moved to Aberdeen, but we don't need to mention that, so that's all.
So I see you mentioned Galloway there, William. You're trying to claim him as your own now.
Slipped it in. Yeah.
So how does TAC have a project set around John Drury and his dances then?
Oh, well, I'll jump in at the beginning of this and then I'll let Sharon finish up. John was born, as some people may know, the same year as the society was formed, 1923. And as William has very eloquently put it, lived in various places, took up dancing, became good friends with Foss, who encouraged him to start devising dances. And everywhere he went, he started devising dances and discovered he had quite the affinity for it. When he passed away in 2014 in Aberdeen at the age of 90, we were lucky enough to be bequeathed the copyright to all of John's dances. John had done a huge amount of traveling around the world, partly because of his dances spreading throughout the world, and people would invite him as an RSCDS qualified teacher to come and teach. And so he ended up in a lot of different places, forming a lot of great friendships, including many in North America. So when he passed away, he left the copyright to his dances to TAC, which was wonderful, except we actually didn't know what that involved because he didn't leave a copy of his dances to us. He just left the copyright. So we had to find out what that meant. We knew there were a few dances out there, but we had no idea just exactly what it meant having the copyright to his dances. And we had no physical copies of them, and TAC in our own archives in our bookstore had very few copies other than a few that were in publications. So we decided we'd better take a look and see how many dances there maybe were, and we should put them in an index. thinking, there were a few dances here and there. We'd get copies of them, build an index, and over 850 dances later, we are still working on it, eh, Sharon?
Yes. The index is just about complete now. There's probably one or two dances out there that we don't know about yet, but we think we've got the majority of them. I think we're over 99% now for sure. Yeah, so that putting together that index was quite a project. Fiona and I spent many weekends in my home putting together the index, one reading, the other typing. So it's been a real eye-opener to see just how many dances that he wrote. We had no idea that it was that many.
Because
So
John, in many ways, is famous in our country dancing, isn't he? I think Miss Milligan nicknamed him Mr. Rondell. She used to revert him to that because the Silver Tassie was the first dance to have a rondelle in it, I think. And if I've got that wrong, we will be told. That's okay. We don't have a monopoly of knowledge, Gary and I. In fact, we've got very little, to be honest.
Very little knowledge at all.
Um, but and I think he also came up with La Barat as well. And having said that, when the time comes, I meet John again. I'm going to have a wee word with him about La Barat. I really am. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But so what are the next steps in the project, Sharon? What's happening now? What stage are we at?
So we have two phases of the project. The first is to get all the dances digitized so that they are available for everybody. And they will be made available on the website as they become digitized. It's quite an intense process. We make sure that we've collected all the different versions because John was famous for changing his mind and changing the dance. And so we make sure that we have all the different versions and that we're digitizing the most current version. And then once we have that done, it goes off for proofreading to 3 other people besides myself to make sure that we haven't made any mistakes. We're not changing any of John's descriptions. We're keeping it all in his language, which isn't necessarily the same as the language that we would see in our CDS books. So we want to make sure that we're capturing the essence of John when we're doing that.
Great.
That's really interesting, that, isn't it? Because there's a lot of the terminology has changed since you go back to some of John's original instructions, and it'll be things like, I know he did a lot of dances with 2 chords. It'll be going to the wrong side.
Mhm.
So it's things like that. So it's interesting, Fiona, that you're keeping the essence of that, and ensuring that we're still using kind of his language as we go forward.
Yes, well, we
Right. We
felt
don't feel it's
that
our
was-
place to change that.
No. Are we not supposed to use wrong side now, Gary?
But we're not supposed to use bottom either, but
Well, no, I know. And I often said I can think of worse things to call it, but anyway, that's another. So yeah, Fiona, so the next steps, it's all moving along nicely, is it?
It's moving along. It's a very slow and intensive project as we review the dances and ensure the terminology has been kept consistent. One of the fun things John used to do is he'd write a dance and dedicate it to somebody, and then the next weekend he'd be off somewhere else and he'd give them the same dance but with a different name. So we've found a number of dances that are identical, but they are under different names, and people are claiming them as being dedicated to them, but the original dance may have been from some time earlier, or he may have taken the same dance and dedicated it to Gary as a jig and then to you as a strathspey. So that has taken a lot of time to go through and compare the dances and find out, are they really the same dance that just had another name? So that when it goes into the index, everything then gets cross-referenced. So there's the name of a dance also known as, published in this publication, but also published in this publication and this publication. So it has been quite a time-intensive project. And once we have confirmed that all of that is correct, each dance is getting an archived copy, which will have the standardized terminology. Plus, we're collecting as much information as people have. If anybody has a photograph that may have been taken of them doing the dance, or of John teaching the dance, or something, a photograph of where the dance is referring to, all of that will end up in the archival copies, and there will be a hard copy put in the TAC archives at York University, as well as Sharon was saying, being available for everybody to access on the website. And that was one of the things we felt was important. We had been given this gift, but it is a gift that we can make available to dancers worldwide by accessing the website.
This is a fantastic project. I mean, it's a huge project, and congratulations to you for doing this. It's massive. And it does take me back a wee bit, because I remember John well at summer school when I was a young teenager. And first of all, I always remember John unpacking his car with about 7 or 8 carrot cakes. He made carrot cake and kept us all going at summer school at the party with his carrot cake. Because you were there for 2 weeks in those days, if you remember. Fiona, Sharon, you'll remember that.
So I have a line on the John's original carrot cake recipe, and I'm hoping to make that available on the archive
Oh,
very
great.
short.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing I remember about that was on the Sunday afternoons, of course, we didn't do anything else. John would gather a group of us up, and, during it, he said, could you help me? I've got a few dances I want to walk through. And we would get into the common room and we would start about 2 o'clock. Well, by 4:30, 4:45, we were done. We were done. Because John was working with great sheaves of paper with all these ideas on them, and you could see his brain going. And you would get into this formation, that we would be we would be all over the place with this dance, and suddenly it would come to the last 8 bars or 4 bars, and he would go, "Do this, everyone," and you would do that, and suddenly it had all worked out, and we were all back to where we were meant to be. And you go, "How did you do that?" Um, Although I have to say, and this is not being disrespectful, he wasn't the best at explaining what he wanted. It was all in his head, and it was really difficult. And we had some hilarious times. But so I like to think I had a wee bit of involvement in some of these dances just for John to work out. It was remarkable. And then we would retire up to our room and have carrot cake. That was great stuff.
Well, I was speaking to someone just the other week who was part of the Aberdeen group that used to get together. He did the same thing, but in Aberdeen, and he would get them all together. He would go through some of the dances that he'd written, and then we'd all go back to his, and probably have carrot cake and some other stuff, I'm sure. But someone, I think, Fiona, you mentioned that you've been trying to get information from other people of, if they've done the dance with John or anything like that. Sharon, what discussions have you had with others who maybe knew him or that had knowledge of those kind of Aberdeen sessions or the summer school sessions that William's talking about?
Yeah, so I've had a few people email me with their own little anecdote. John wrote this dance for me. It was a celebration for my wedding, or lots of different stories, and those will all come together in our archive record. And then and people send pictures, so we'll be able to see pictures of the people that he wrote those dances for. The people around the world who loved John and loved his dances, the number of those people is astronomical. It's unbelievable how many people really truly loved what he did. And it's a real honor for me to be able to compile all that information and put it all together. Yeah.
Fiona, you mentioned the archive, the TAC archive in York University. So how did that come about that the TAC, this is quite interesting actually, that your archive is in a university.
Luck of the draw and the correct contacts.
As with everything.
But that's useful because the public, everyone has access to that then, I suppose.
They do, although currently York University is struggling with staffing and space and all the other issues that archival facilities have to deal with. But you can contact the university and ask to see particular records, or they do it by, I think it's square inches or something like that. Can I see inch 4 and 5 of of this set of materials? But you can contact them and get access to see various archival material, not necessarily just this project, but all of the archives relating to the Teachers Association Canada. So.
Now, that being said, of course, the Drewry project is not sitting in archives yet because it's all in my house because I'm working on it. But it will eventually make it there.
So Sharon, how
sure.
do people contact you then? Could you give us your contact? Do you mind letting people know?
No, absolutely. It's very easy to contact me, drewry at tac-rscds.org.
Okay.
We'll put that in the description of the video as well, so that people can contact you.
And if you haven't got that, you can always contact us through rscds.org, and yeah, we'll make sure you get contact with that. That's brilliant. That's absolutely great. So you know, more information about. I mean, are you interested in hearing from people who are interested in helping with this? I know you want, you know, people sending photographs and so on, but any kind of contact about this, Sharon, you would like to hear from?
Absolutely. Anybody who wants to help out, anybody, especially anybody who has any information we don't already have, things like pictures and stories about the dances. We think we have at least a copy of every dance now. I think there's about 7 or 8 left that we don't have, and those are listed on our website. But we have, I think we have copies of all the rest of the dances now, whether it's through our own personal collections. Between Fiona and I, we had a fair number. Or, you know, people sending us a photocopy of something that they had already. I think we're pretty close to being complete. If anybody is looking to get rid, that's not a good word. If anybody's looking to downsize, and they're looking to pass on their originals, we would love to have a full set of originals for the archive if we possibly could. So yeah, if anybody's looking to downsize, we'd be happy to take those. And all the information for that is also available on the website.
Yes, it'd be lovely to hear from people who were there when a certain dance was devised as John tried them out. Although I know from, you know, stories from people, John was a great outdoor man. He loved climbing. He was a hill walker. He loved the outdoors. And I know that he composed, you know, he went camping, and he would have an idea, so he would go outside, and he would be found in the middle of nowhere walking himself through patterns and through dances and scribbling them on bits of paper, which you've probably got now, these bits of paper. Quite remarkable, Gary, really, how all that
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you mentioned, William, a couple of the formations that he created, and he did create quite a few. Is there any other examples that you both know of? The Rondelle and Labarat's been mentioned, but is there any others that you can think of that our members might not be aware of, that it was him that devised the formations?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, whether he was the original who came up with the formation, or if he tweaked somebody else's from that he'd seen somewhere else, it's hard to say. Yeah. Fiona, do you know of any others?
The only other one I have questioned is the Espanol, which he has put in several of his dances. But again, I don't know if, as you say, it was a tweaking, it was his vision of what somebody else had originally come up with.
Somebody out there might know, so please do let us know. You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and
And
that,
pop it
that
on in the comments as well of
Yep.
of the YouTube link, and start that discussion. One of the things I did want to mention, Sharon, you said that people around the world just love his dances, and I'm one of them. That I think they flow so nicely. They kind of go from some really easy ones to some really tricky ones. I was teaching one in Harrogate not that long ago, a 6x48 bar strathspey, John Sinton's strathspey, which is devised for John Sinton, the bass player, and he said it's a big dance for a big instrument. But quite a complicated dance, so we kind of go from one extreme to the other. And I have a real difficulty when I'm coming up with a dance program not to put too many of John's dances onto a program because they all flow so well. But I just wondered, and this is probably the trickiest question of the lot, out of 850 dances, what your favourite John Drury dance would be. Sharon, we'll come to you first.
Right. So, thank you for the heads up for this question, I have to say, because like you said, there's 850 to pick from. But I think that my favorite would have to be not for the dance itself, but for the memories that it created, would be the Blooms of Bonaccord. It's a dance that he wrote quite early on. It's in the D-side book and part 2. And being from Aberdeen, Bonaccord holds a special place in my heart. But also, it was one of the first dances that I ever did as a demonstration dance with the adult team. So it was a few years ago.
And Fiona, what about you?
Come on, Fiona, something West Coast, please.
Well, I actually kind of struggled with the question, Gary, and I had to break it down to my favourite jig reel in strathspey.
Oh, right.
Excellent. Well done.
My favourite reel, partly because of the memories, Crossing the Line, which is a 3-couple reel that starts one way and then it completely flips itself on its head.
Very clever.
And I love it because John actually taught me it at a workshop held in the Banff Springs Hotel in the Rocky Mountains in Alberta, so home territory for Sharon and I these days. And John, when he taught, stood up at the front, shut his eyes, kind of lifted his head as though he was checking his eyelids, and just read the dance off his eyelids and expected that we all would get through it. And then he asked the musician to play. And I just have such vivid memories of once we were flipped on our heads to do it, going, there's no way this will work out. And as you say, it completely resolves in the end. So that would be my favourite reel, Crossing the Line. My favourite strathspey is Mrs. Hamilton of Wishaw, which came out in about 1967, I believe, and it's in one of the RSCDS's about book 23. That was the very first Drury dance I remember being taught back in Scotland in our Glasgow University class, and the whole class at the end of it just erupting that we'd actually managed to dance through a John Drury dance and completed it. It's got meanwhile stuff, it's got the canon, it's got the rondelle, his move in it, and it still is a favourite, although it's not done that often. And then my favourite jig, I think, has to be the Flying Spur, which is in the Canadian book, and you just don't stop. Once you start moving, you just don't stop. And if you do stop, everybody else is in trouble because you're blocking their way. So I think those would be my top of the list, not because they're the best dances necessarily, but like Sharon said, a lot of it often is the memories that you have from it. Or it was the most recent one you did and you went, oh, I've got to remember that one because it flows nicely, something like that. So very hard question, Gary, but thank you.
Oh, well done, the pair of you, for coming up with some answers. Now, William, I'm going to put you in the spot as well.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows, I think, that my favourite dance, for the same reasons, is, and it's not a John Drury dance, is the Flowers of Edinburgh, because it was the very first dance I learned as a 5-year-old. But when it comes to dances, tunes play a huge thing for me, great tunes. So the Earl of Mansfield, the Earl of Mansfield for me is a favourite. I love the dance, but that great old pipe tune, da da dee da dum dum deedle deedle dum deedle dee da dum dum deedle deedle dum, just can't beat it. It's fantastic. So for me, it would be the Earl of Mansfield, and that. And incidentally, it's quite strange, but I think I'm correct in saying, and no doubt I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. Miss Milligan was not keen on pipe tunes. So I believe, but we'll just leave that there. But I love dancing to the old pipe tunes, are great. So the Earl of Mansfield for me, Gary, would be the one. I'm interested that you taught that one at Harrogate recently. What was it called?
John Sinton's Strathspey. In fact, I found it Fiona Mackey from Dundee actually taught it in Oxford, and
Yeah.
I heard it was really good, so I pinched it.
Right, and she would manage it. Did you get them through it okay?
The dancers managed fine. Whether I managed was a different story.
Right, so but your favourite then?
My favourite, yeah, see, you ask hard questions and then throw it back at you.
Absolutely.
Again, it's that connection between a really good dance and some cracking music that goes with it. And I think the Bellabon Accord has to be up there with it. With the Bonnie Lassabon Accord by Scott Skinner, the tune that goes with it. It's such a gorgeous tune, and the dance is great as well. A Reel of Four and Space Time, which I just love. So I think probably, yeah, the Bellabon Accord, and of course it has to be Bon Accord.
Oh, please. Here we go. Fiona, you and I'll
I'm
go.
glad you're here, Sharon.
I mean, what are they like? What are they like, Fiona? Yeah. Oh, there's Fiona with one for Wishaw of all places. I mean, how about
I
that?
know.
Had to be.
All right,
Had to be.
we'll have the whole of Aberdeen branch on our side, Sharon. You're fine.
Fantastic.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely fine with us, I can tell you.
Oh,
Absolutely.
once we get the West Coast involved, you're beat.
Totally, Fiona. They've got no chance whatsoever. So,
It'd
anyway,
be great to hear members' views and their favourite John Drury dance as well. Just pop it in the comments.
put in the comments.
It'd be great to hear what your favourite real jig and Strathspey. Let's go for that.
Absolutely.
Not a trend.
So what's next for this project then? What happens now, and when will it finish, I suppose, is the answer. How are you doing?
Finish? There is no such word in this vocabulary. Yeah, it's just going to be a long, sort of drawn out process, I guess. It takes time to collect all that information. I'm hoping that we'll get a lot of the dances digitized over the next few years, and the archive records that hold all of that, the anecdotes and the pictures and things will follow as the information comes available. But yeah, it's a multi-year project for sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, well done to the pair of you for
Absolutely.
the work that you've put into this to collate these 850 dances and to begin the process of digitizing. I mean, Sharon, there must be piles of paper in your house.
Oh, there is. There is.
There is. Yeah. A
It's
lot.
It's fantastic. But look, thanks a lot for this, and thanks for coming on. It's great to see the pair of you, and we'll catch up on a dance floor somewhere. And as Gary says, if anybody's got any information, get in touch and pop it in the comments and your favourite John Drury dance. Let's hear from all our members and pop them in the comments. That'd be great. But as we hinted at the beginning, though, ladies, we could not be more delighted that you're joining us tonight, two of our favourite people in the dancing world, to share our first birthday.
Yeah,
We have a
happy
birthday.
birthday to us.
Yeah, happy birthday to us.
them.
And I've got a little cake. Look at that.
Bye.
I've got a little cake. Have you?
Oh.
Oh, for goodness. Oh,
Oh, if I knew this was a competition,
well,
I mean,
the two Scotsmen with the cheapest little cupcakes you can find, and look at these lovely. Yeah, I've got a wee. Let's see if that can light as well.
and yours was free, William. So you
Be quiet. Yes, we're not even going there. Right.
So happy birthday to the Blether.
Happy birthday to the Blether. Thank you to Sharon and Fiona for coming on this month. Absolutely terrific. Next month, Gary, have we got a guest?
Yes, I say this every month, but I'm very excited for the next month because we have got Neil Galloway. Neil Galloway, known to many folks, a band leader, and he has just finished recording for book 54. So we're going to have Neil on to chat about, just to give us all a bit more background about the recording process, what goes on behind the scenes to get everything ready for the band before that, and when they get into the actual studio, and to hear a bit more around that. It's Neil's first recording for the RSC.
Yeah.
So it'll be great to have him on to to chat about that and get to know him a bit better.
Yeah, it will be great to get Neil having his first recording with us. So there we are, and this is beginning to look like an Easter celebration that we're having here with people will be thinking, what are they doing? So there we are.
You better hurry up because my candles are out.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on it burning you. That's what I'm looking forward to, burning your fingers. Anyway, thanks again, ladies. Thanks to everybody, and love to everyone in Canada. Whatever you do, all the dancers here, we'll see them sometime. And in the meantime, happy birthday to us. And it's a goodbye from him and me.
And it's goodbye from me and him.
Here we go.